Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Lee, and in this video I'm going to talk about how I'm growing hundreds of trees from seed in a very small space with just a few materials. What you see here are two air pruning beds. Air pruning is a technique to grow plants in a very healthy, natural way, and you can grow lots of them in a small bed like these. These are about 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and they can be made from a variety of materials. Um, these are made from leftover fence pickets. It's not the greatest quality of wood, but this is my first time trying this, so this is kind of like my beta version of the air prune beds. But let's get a little closer and see why they're called air pruning. So you may notice that there's a gap at the bottom of the bed. What happens is the plants will send their roots down, and then once they hit the bottom, once they hit the open air, they'll be pruned, hence the name air pruning. And it's not that they stop growing once they hit the bottom, but they stop growing vertically, and instead they start to branch out and take up as much space as they can. Now, in each of these boxes, I put about, I would guess, somewhere between 50 to 100 chestnut seeds. I chose to do chestnuts because I think they are one of the most wonderful, valuable plants on our planet. They have a deep history, especially in the United States. The American chestnut was amongst our top food sources until a disease came and wiped out most of them. So what I did was I forage chestnut seeds from trees near, like within our town, and then I store them over the winter, and they start to germinate. They start to sprout out like in the late winter or early spring. Now, let me hop over here where I have a bucket that I used for the storage part. So this is a really good example and visual of what I did. Now, I have a couple notes on it. I would do things a little bit differently, but as you can see here, those brown things right there are the chestnuts. Yeah, the same thing that you would roast and eat and cook. You can also make flour with it. Chestnuts have a caloric profile that's similar to brown rice. So it's a good carbohydrate source, and it has a little bit of protein and fat as well. But unlike other nuts like a almond or a peanut, which are higher in fat, the chestnut has it's more of a carbohydrate type of food source. Anyways, that's a little tangent, but you can see that some of these chestnuts in here have sprouted, and they're, the leaves are reaching up towards the sun and they're looking really good. Now, I should put these in an air prune bed, but I just haven't had time to make another one. Another way that you can grow plants in a healthy, natural way is just by putting them in the ground. So we have a space here where we grow some crops, and I might just put these directly in the ground and just grow a row of chestnut trees, kind of like how we have our winter cover crops going. I say healthy and natural because I'm kind of comparing it in my mind to trees that are grown in containers. Container grown trees they often get root bound to the container they're in, and I can probably show you one of those. So if you look at, I have a bunch of old like fig trees, and these are all grown in containers from cuttings, and I can probably just rip out one of these plants like this one here. It's hard to do with one hand, but essentially the root system is going to wrap around whatever shape of container that it's being held in. And that is unnatural in a sense that, trees in the ground don't create a circular pattern with their roots. They want to spread out as far as wide as they possibly can. So with air pruning, or with planting directly in the ground, you'll end up with a healthier root system. and therefore you'll end up with a healthier tree. These are often marketed and sold as bare root plants. Bare root meaning that they aren't root bound, they were not grown in a container, and you can assume that they have a healthier root system. Now, they might not look as great if you find bare root plants as a container grown plant, but in the long run, they usually produce healthier trees. Oh yeah, so one more thing about the storage component is that you can see the material that I used here. I did a combination of sand and peat moss. I was consulting with Akiva Silver, who's kind of a master of this technique, and he recommended just using sand because peat moss can tend to get moldy. I mean, this obviously worked pretty well, but once I got that advice, I did everything else with sand. So I just wanted to mention that sand, although it makes your containers a lot heavier, that's really the recommended medium by Akiva and other people more expert in doing this. But yeah, you basically just forage your nuts, put them in some sand, a little bit of moisture in there, and then I just put these in a crawl space for the winter. I didn't do anything. I didn't water them during the winter. And then, you know, as things started to warm up a little bit, they started to germinate. So going back here, I'll talk a little bit about the construction of these air prune beds. So you will need something to elevate them off the ground. Otherwise, these, you know, the taproots are just going to go straight down into the ground. So you need some elevation. I just used some like paving bricks that I found someone giving them away for free on a website. Yeah, and then you'll need some type of wood. So whatever, you can use whatever you can find. I don't think it matters that much, especially if you're just experimenting like I am. And then you're going to need some soil. So this soil, you can take a look at it. Try not to disturb any of the trees, but you know, it's pretty good soil. It's you know, I put some wood chips in there. Some of it's like broken down wood chips. Some of it's extra garden bed soil that I had kind of dug up over here. You know, you kind of just want something that has pretty good drainage. Like, you don't want to just stick a bunch of hard clay soil in here. So whether you need to get, you know, a garden bed mix or something, just something that's breathable. And so yeah, you'll need some soil, some wood, probably some screws or nails. And then this is hardware cloth, it's called. It's basically like a type of steel in a small grid. So the grid is small enough to keep the soil in, and it provides that airflow at the bottom. Another thing you might want to consider is more hardware cloth to cover the top. So the reason why you'd want to cover the top is mostly because of squirrels or birds that may come in here and try to pick at your seeds, your chestnuts or your persimmons or whatever you're growing. I haven't had any squirrel pressure yet or bird pressure that I can see, but I do have some extra hardware cloth over there that I might build a little roof on top of here. But if you are going to do something on the top, you probably want to make it significantly tall, because these trees, I mean, this one's already probably, you know, 8 inches above the surface, and we're only just starting the spring, so these actually are going to get pretty big, and you don't want to have that cage kind of blocking its growth. So this one, we're looking at, I think 3 weeks is when I put the chestnuts in, and yeah, I can visually see at least 20 seedlings coming up. This one was done, I think, about maybe 10 days ago or something, and I'm just starting to see little seedlings come up. There's one right there. So that's just to give you a little sense of time on what you might expect as far as how long it takes. And you might be asking yourself, like, why am I growing so many chestnut trees? Well, why not? I mean, I love foraging. this is something I wanted to try personally. And I also want to play a little part in restoring the chestnut. And so I'm not planning on planting hundreds of chestnut trees where we live, but I do plan on distributing these to other people. I will ship them out. I will give them to people in my local community, and over the time, we'll just see if we can find some homes for these and create more chestnut trees, because in today's world, like, food security is always up in the air. And if we can restore the chestnut, it really takes a lot of worry and anxiety out of where we're going to find food. Chestnuts, they're not going to provide food all year long, but they provide a massive bounty of really good, really valuable, dense calories. And, not only for us, but for wildlife too. So why not grow these trees and try to find homes for them? That's how I'm thinking about it. And plus, it's a good learning experience. I just wanted to try building air prune beds, and you can use them for a bunch of different other trees too. Yeah. One more reason is just to pass on the legacy, to pass on the life. I'm going to share a picture with you. One of the saddest things I saw recently was that there are these two chestnut trees that must be at least 75 years old, and they produce these huge, beautiful chestnuts. And recently the homeowners decided to just cut them down. And fortunately, I got chestnuts from these exact trees. So I'm trying to keep that legacy alive and continue that tree's lifespan. But yeah, it's sad. I mean, I kind of get it. Like, chestnuts, the burrs of the chestnuts are really spiky. And if if they're in the street or on the sidewalk, kids can get hurt by them. Actually, they're pretty spiky in it, and it does not feel good to step on one of those with your bare feet. So they should be planted ideally in open areas, but or at least maintained by someone who knows what they're doing and is willing to clean up the burrs and stuff. If you're interested in updates, leave a comment below. If you have any questions or ways that I could do this better, I'm open to that feedback too. But for now, I think that's all. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.